Now we're going to build this piece underneath the shelf. Whenever you do a project like this, you always want to do some checks to make sure that your measurements are turning out to be realistic. So what I've done here is I designed this board to be 6 inches longer than the board in front. I wanted a 3-inch lip on the right side and on the left side. So I marked at 3 inches on either side. I'm taking the board that's going to go in front, and I'm just double checking to make sure the measurement looks spot on. So line it up with the 3-inch mark that I've made. And I'm going to line it up on this side too. And it's spot on. So this just keeps it real. This makes sure that we're being realistic in our measurements, and it works out well. Prevents you from putting things together and then realizing the last piece you put in is totally wrong and you messed everything up. Which happens. But try not to let it happen. Now let's start assembling the bottom, where the shelf will be. So what I'm going to do is I have one of these deals and an 18-inch piece. And I'm going to stick it in. Mallet. Get it exactly where I want it. Now that it's in place, let's screw it in. Alright, now let's move on to the next one. This one's kind of loose. Oh well. Alright, now let's worry about the front piece that's going to go where our shelf is. So we line this up, place it in the hole, grab some screws and go to town. Alright, now this piece is completed. Okay, now we're going to screw the rear piece on where the shelf goes. Now I did this in a bad order. I should have put on the rear piece before these. That would have been a lot easier, but I'll just have to make do. I've made a mark on these where the shelf unit needs to go, so let's go ahead and screw it in. Alright, now the piece where the shelf goes is all complete except for where the center support goes. So that'll go right in here. But this is the piece that supports the shelf now. Alright, now it's time to fasten this guy in place, so let's get started. down to this piece. Okay, so now we're going to attach these feet. And as you can see, there's a little give here. That's because we didn't make them perfectly square, but that's just fine. We're going to do that now. So I just take this grip, stick it in, clamp it down, make sure it's flush with the top, and we're good to go. Alright, now take the screwdriver and screw it in. Didn't see that. We're done with this side. We'll move on to the next. Alright, now we're going to attach this section in the middle. This is the front center leg. So what I've done is I've taken a quick grip and I've centered it on the top. And me and my buddy got this part wedged in. It was pretty tough, and but we got it done in not too much time. We got it centered and squared. Now we just need to screw it in. Alright, all done with this. Now we're going to work on the rear legs and get those screwed into the assembly. So what we're going to do is, I got this clamped in so the edge is flush. And then this top one right here isn't quite as straight, but we'll deal with that in a second. So I'm going to put 2 screws down here and then 2 screws up here. So I'll get started on that. So we got that. Now we need to get this straight. Okay, now we got this flush, so we're going to put a couple screws in it. Alright, now we'll finish the bottom and the top. Now when attaching the rear legs, you just want to make sure that this part's flush, and then you can go to town. I'm going to put 2 screws on top, 2 screws on bottom. Alright, so we got top done, now let's move to bottom. And then 2 more back on top and we're done. Now that we have this centered and clamped, let's go ahead and screw these in. Now what? Alright, so now we're going to take the Craig tool pocket hole jig and just make some pocket holes so we can get the workbench on here. We're going to do this for both the top, where the workbench is located, and the bottom, where the shelf is located. It's got it clamped on there. Now let's go to town. Okay, one hole done. Two holes done. Three holes done. Four holes. And I'm going to do 4 holes on all the boards. So all the boards going long ways, 4 holes. Now to stain the pieces of this workbench, what I did was I got like an oil-based varnish, or just like an oil-based stain. I got a mini wax wood finish. It's pretty inexpensive, and what you do is you just take a cheap brush like this, costs about $1. You paint it on the board, wait about 20 minutes, and then wipe it off with an old rag or a t-shirt that you just plan on throwing away. And it looks pretty good afterwards, and that'll also keep it preserved and seal it. Now I've decided I actually want my bench a little bit taller than 6'4", and I was also concerned that the 2x4s here were not going to be enough to support what I was planning on putting on the shelf. So what I did was I added another 6 inches, I made it 6'10", and made it so it's a 2x4 structure here. That'll make it so the shelf will be able to hold a lot more weight. Now I looked at Home Depot and Lowe's and didn't find any like shelving brackets that I thought would be sufficient for the shelf that I'm looking to put on here. So I'm going to make my own. Alright, so what I need here is I need a piece that will go 10 inches out on the shelf. So it's right here on this mark on the square. And it's going to need to recess 6 inches into my top member. So that's here. So I've got basically a right triangle that's 10 by 6. So let's go ahead and mark this off. 10, 6. There. And then what I want is I want a piece, I'll nick off about the size of a 2x4 as far as width goes here. Alright, so this is the shape of the piece I need. So it's going to nestle up against the top of my workbench here, and here. And then it's going to hold the shelf here. The next piece we have to worry about is getting these brackets up on the top of the rear 2x4s. And then once those are in place, you can then screw the top shelf on. Just do this while it's on its back, it's not that hard. About 4 screws going in this direction, 4 screws going in this direction. Then the next step is to mount the light. Really easy, just a couple of screws, and then I'll show you how to wire it right now.